Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dana White Contender Series breakdown. This is week 9. We're only 2 weeks away from the end of the season this week and week 10, obviously. It's been a good season and just glad to have such a good partner and Mike joining me and being my co-host. And we've crushed it this season. Mike, how are you doing and how do you feel about this week?
I'm chilling, man. I feel pretty good about this week. Our reads have been on point so far, knock on wood for the most part. I actually checked the other day. I'm 6-2-0 so far on events for Contender Series this season. We got 2 more left, so guaranteed a winning record, not guaranteed a profit just yet. But last week was interesting. Well, last week, literally yesterday was interesting. Ended up not cashing as much as I should have because I bet on Carly last second, which was a terrible idea. And for some reason, I thought I should bet Soldotkin round 1, which is another terrible idea. But other than that, I was on point, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, that was a interesting one with Soldatkin. That whole fight, it's like, okay,
How
wrestling.
about those 2 fights before, though? Silva Pacheco?
Silva Pacheco is the best Dana White Contender Series fight. The best.
For sure.
Has
We
to be.
literally got 2 fights in a row where both fighters set records.
Yeah, and
Both peak records.
the Carly and Ernesta fight, the best women's Contender Series fight.
Easy.
That is
Easy.
that is a very rare situation to have. So I'm just blessed to be able to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to the first matchup of next week's Dana White Contender Series. We have Lucas Roka going up against Davey Bettencourt. Lucas Roka, 16-1, fighting out of Brazil, 23 years old. These guys are flyweights, and he's has a oh my goodness, word vomit. He's at a 2-inch height disadvantage. On the other hand, we have Davey Bettencourt also fighting out of Brazil. 28 years old. He'll be the older fighter by 5 years. And as I mentioned, he'll have the 2-inch height advantage in this matchup. Mike, what do you think about this one?
First of all, can we talk about the hair? We got to talk about the hair.
Epic. I mean, if we were judging these fights based on appearance, then Davey wins 10-8 every single round.
If we judged off of appearance, he's going to be UFC champion, man. That hair, it's just beautiful. But this is a great matchup, one that I'm really hype about. I got hype about it because of the picture. Thought it was too funny. Then I had to throw bias aside because I literally wanted to bet him just because of his afro, which is not a good way to cap fights. I mean, hey, we always say for fighters with bad haircuts, right? We say bad decisions outside of the cage lead to bad decisions inside of the cage. Should go the other way too, right? A great decision like that hair might mean that he's going to make really good decisions in terms of the actual fight now. So both guys are really solid. Both guys are, probably UFC caliber. I think both could have been signed outside of the Contender Series. But my issue with Roka, because I know a lot of people are high on him, a lot of people like him. I do think, at 23, he's guaranteed to be good at this point. 16-1 for a reason. But first off, he made his debut actually a year before Costa, Bettencourt, whatever his name actually is. He made his debut a year before that, even though he's 23, which means he made his debut at 16 years old. And while he's had so many fights, he still kind of seems green to me. And my biggest issue with him, he's just making so many mistakes. Because he's a decent striker. I think his striking's pretty solid, but I don't think it's anything crazy. He goes to the body nicely. He's got good output. He does a lot of the fancy jumping stuff, and that's part of the mistakes I'm going to talk about in a second. But I do think overall he's going to be the slightly cleaner striker. You look at Costa, most of the time he's throwing jabs and winging punches. And oh,
You're back.
I'm back. Was I out for a sec?
Just for a second.
Okay, cool. So the thing with Davey is he's got okay striking, but we're kind of limited to that jab and kind of the hooky strikes. Like I said, I don't know if I was frozen, not really seeing 1-2s. He does like to throw that spinning kick, not really like it does much, but looks nice and he's explosive, so that's good. He did hurt Henrique twice. The guy definitely has a lot of power. And that's another thing I want to talk about before we even get to Roka's mistakes is Roka's chin. His chin is questionable at best. At best. He's very hittable. Got hurt really quickly in the Eduardo Castro fight. The guy's 9-5-0 now. Got dropped in the Ramos fight in round 1 twice. got dropped by Alan Gabriel, and then he got finished. This was in 2019, so he was 19 years old. But again, my point is, chin's very questionable, been knocked out once. And while I don't think Davey is an elite striker by any means, I think he is very powerful. 6 knockout wins, and I do think he can touch that chin. He's been hurt too. Not to say he can't be knocked out, and 9 knockout wins on the Rocha side. I just think that the more chinny guy appears to be Rocha. In terms of wrestling, grappling, I think that it's easily goes to Davey. I love his wrestling. Fantastic timing, very fast, very explosive. He's relentless. One of these guys who's just going to keep going for the takedowns. There's one concern there. It's got 2 submission wins, and it's for a reason. It's because he does kind of do it recklessly. He does kind of stick his neck out there. He can be caught with a guillotine, which is something that Rocha could do. Rocha's got 4 submission wins. You got 6 wins on the Davey side, but like I said, sub twice. Last time was in 2021, and he is pretty green, Davey. So maybe I won't put too much weight in that, but it is definitely a concern, and one of the reasons I won't be hammering him, even though I do like him here. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, I know this has been long-winded, but this is the fight I spent the most time on because, first of all, it's sick, and second of all, Davey's hair. But Roka, here's I literally have a list of issues I had. I just think he doesn't make good decisions inside the cage. He just doesn't. Dropping for a leg lock against De Silva, who clearly had the grappling edge. De Silva was cleanly out grappling him, had his back. And then for some reason, he says, okay, it's a good idea for me to drop for a leg lock. Same round, he went for a Darce, turned the wrong way, ended up in a tight guillotine choke. Went for an armbar at the end of the Castro fight, ended up on bottom, started getting beat up until he got his back taken. And then the last one is in the Ramos fight, and it happens in most of his fights where he throws those flying, jumping kicks, he falls down. And a guy like Davey, who wrestles and wants to go to the ground, he's going to take advantage. So for me, I like Davey here, and I'm fairly confident that I'm going to get him as the underdog. So I'll be putting a unit on him.
Yeah, I mean, this fight's really close. I had to retape it twice now because it's probably the only or one of the 2 fights where I think it could go either way on this card. Now, just reading off my notes here, I think that Roka's striking is miles ahead of Bettencourt's, just a lot more technical, a lot more like he has that piston kind of jab. I do like his striking quite a bit more than Bettencourt's. Obviously, Bettencourt has the grappling and the wrestling advantage here, and he's pretty strong at it. Does leave his neck open, which, like you said, Roka does have 4 submission wins, and I think he could find another one here. The issue I have is that Roka is a little bit less chinny. I mean, is a little bit more chinny than Bettencourt, but I don't think that's going to be an issue here because Bettencourt's striking is pretty telegraphed, not really something that hits you by surprise. It's very telegraphed, and you can see those winging punches coming. Now, I just don't know where to side. Like, obviously, if we're talking about no chin involved, I'm going to be all over the Roka side. But that chin is just a big concern, and ultimately, I feel like I'm going to have to pass on this one. But I do predict Roka to win, but slight margins. This could be a pick'em fight, in my opinion.
The beauty is I don't think it will be.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think it will be. We look at the topology, 80% towards Roka, and like I get it. He faced a much better level of competition too. Like we have to say that.
Who, Roka?
Yeah.
Has he?
Yeah. That last win in LFA was pretty good too.
So was Davey's though.
I mean,
Davey fought what's his face? Eduardo Henrique. Pretty sure he was the underdog there too. Yeah, plus 240 he was.
Yeah.
I don't know. The level of comp is similar.
Mm-hmm. It's a really fun fight though, so I'm looking forward to it. I do think both guys do belong in the UFC though.
Oh yeah.
Next up, we have Mauricio Ruffy going up against Raymond Magomedov, or Magomedov. And yeah, we have another 2 prospects who only have 1 loss each. Magomedov is going to be 3 years older at 33 years old. He'll be the taller fighter by 2 inches at 6'1", fighting out of Russia, and then Ruffy's fighting out of Brazil. So what I came out with in this one, I expect Raymond to be the favorite here, probably like minus 200 to minus 250. And here's the way I view this matchup. I think both of these guys deserve to be on the roster too. Really good strikers on both ends, and like no joke, both of these guys have really solid striking technique. You see with Raymond, like he uses these kicks relentlessly, and I love that about his game. And I think that can pose some issues, but I worry about the guy's cardio, especially like when you're going up against someone that has some power. If he touches you up, it zaps the cardio. Like even when I'm in the training room and I'm going up against someone that has some power and he's hitting me, it zaps some of the cardio or it zaps the adrenaline, and it gets you to think a little bit more, and it tires you out that much quicker. And his cardio isn't all that good. With Ruffy, I think he's a lot more well-rounded and he has some decent cardio, and I think Ruffy can get a finish himself. So the way I view it is I think it's either Raymond early finish or Ruffy late finish / decision, because I don't think that Raymond's cardio is going to last all 3 rounds. What do you think, Mike?
Sorry, I'm a little sick, but yeah, this fight's actually really dope. And when I first saw the like who it was, Magomedov, I knew Ruffy I knew nothing about. I was like, okay, it's definitely going to be a layup fight for Magomedov. But after taping it, this is another fight that I spent so much time on. Between the last two, I might have spent more time taping it than I spent on the entire card last week, yesterday. But it's because there's a lot to look at. On the Ruffy side, training out of Fighting Nerds, very hot camp right now, training with Kai Barayo. And it's a good camp for grappling, which is something he's going to need here. It's not like he ever wrestles himself. He really does not. But his takedown defense, you watch his fights, and I found quite a bit of them. I watched most of them. He got taken down like 1 or 2 times, and it was in the same fight. It was in the Sosa fight. Sosa's 10-0 now, fighting in the PFL as well. So it's not a joke, no joke guy. And he was actually beating up Sosa on the feet. He was clearly the better striker. He did end up getting hurt and knocked out. But in terms of who was landing nicer, who looked cleaner, it was Ruffy. And I really like his striking. I love the front kicks. I love the way he uses his jab, really educated jab, clean 1-2. Loves his spinning stuff, which I am not a fan of. If you guys have seen my shows, I kind of hate spinning stuff. But hey, as long as you can follow it up with good punches and things like that, then I'm okay with it. And he's a really clean counter striker. All 8 wins coming by knockout, never been to a single decision. But and I also think he's fought some decent competition. You look at Ronnie Torres in the last fight, and you look at him, you're like, oh, he's 37 years old, all this stuff. But look, he's 41, 8-0. The guy was very experienced. And Ruffy was, first of all, able to handle all the grappling coming from Torres, who's a solid grappler. And second of all, he was able to put him away. And that's what you want to see when someone's facing lower level competition, right? Because they can only fight who's in front of them. They don't always pick their opponents. But if they're getting the finishes, it's a good look. Like a guy like Isaac Dogarian, right? We doubted him because he only had round 1 knockouts over bums, round 1 finishes over bums. And then turned out he was legit. And we knew that. We should have known that because he was finishing those bumps in like under a round. So on the Magomedov side, I think he's going to open even wider. I feel like he's going to open like minus 300, maybe even more, which I'm praying for. Because if I get Ruffy anywhere near plus 250 or higher, I'm going to play him. Because Magomedov, he is a good striker, like you said. But I've got 2 issues. First of all, he doesn't throw enough with his hands at all. Like the majority of his strikes that he's throwing are kicks, which I hate. And Ruffy will be able to land if that's the case. He's going to be able to land quite a bit. And when he is throwing his hands, it's kind of loopy and sloppy. I don't love the hands on Magomedov. And he does have good kicks, like I mentioned, good leg kicks, nice front kicks. And he is nasty in the clinch. I'll give him that. And I do think he'll initiate quite a bit of clinching because I do think he's going to be shooting. And I do think Ruffy has good takedown defense. So I think we're going to spend quite a bit of time on the cage. The thing is, his wrestling is really good. That's why he's the rightful favorite for sure, because his wrestling is legit. His hips are insane. Extremely strong on top. Jiu-jitsu is pretty solid. Only 2 sub wins. More of a knockout guy. But I do think the ground game will be here for him. It's just a matter of, can he take Ruffy down and can he hold him down? Because we haven't really seen anybody do that yet. We haven't seen Ruffy fight a guy like Magomedov yet, but I have a gut feeling, and from seeing what I saw on the tape, that Ruffy can really pull this off. I'm going to pick Mago, but
Yeah, I'll pick Mago, but I'm right there with you. Like if they give us a good dog price on Ruffy, I'm gonna have to take it.
Yep.
On to the next one. We have Magomed Gatsi Yasulov going up against Jose Daniel Medina. Magomed is fighting out of Bahrain. He'll be the younger fighter by 3 years. He's 6'3". We don't have height metrics on Medina. Um, like I said, Medina's the older fighter by 3 years, fighting out of Bolivia. Mike, why don't you break this one down first?
Yeah, this one's rough because first off, I'm gonna call him Godzi. Well done pronouncing his name. That was insane, Wiz. But I'm gonna call him Godzi because I can't do that, even though I'm the one who speaks Russian. I kind of feel like he's like he's kind. I don't want to say fraud, but I kind of want to say fraud. I'll say overhyped. I think there's a little too much hype behind him. I do get it though. He's on a 17 fight win streak, I think. Or am I mixing up my guys? Hold up. Yeah, 15 fight win streak for him. He was 10-2 as an amateur, so he's got an extensive record, 7 pro fights. He's definitely experienced. He's training out of KHK. He's one of 2 guys training out of KHK. That's Mokaev's camp, and we also saw a heavyweight 2 episodes ago. I don't remember his name anymore. Also out of that camp, and we saw his grappling was very solid. And that's what we see out of that camp. Other fighters on the regionals as well, all very similar, all really good wrestlers, all have very solid grappling games. The striking, yeah, that's him. The striking, it's kind of across the camp. Their striking isn't the best in the world. He's not using his hands much, similar to what we see from Mokaev in the UFC. Not using his hands much. The kicks are really nice, good leg kicks, but I would like if he threw more with his hands. He's a big, strong dude. He's a large fella, so he does have power and he is knocking guys out. I just wish he was letting go a little bit more. Does seem a bit hittable. Got hurt in his last fight against Muhammad Malim. Wasn't the best look, and Medina could crack, but I'll get to Medina in a second because it's no good. His wrestling is really good, though, for Godzi. I think that's going to be the path, and I think that's what's going to get it done for him. He had one fight in 2017, then came back in 2021. Not sure why he was out. Been out for over a year now, so he's not very active. But these are all points I would make if he was fighting a good guy. The problem is they gave him a note like, man, I want to say bum. I don't want to say bum, but I want to say
go
bum.
ahead.
They gave him a really bad fighter, man. I know the record looks pretty, and he's out of Bolivia, and we've been loving these South American fighters. But first of all, he's way undersized here. He's going to be the much smaller dude. Clearly not the more athletic guy. He's got a nice belly like I do, a little bit more than me even. And I do think he's about 2-3 inches shorter, if not more. Only been to a decision 2 times in 13 fights, so he is a finisher, and he's getting finished himself. Only once, though, by submission. Hasn't been knocked out. His body shots are good. He looks thick. He's got a good jab, but the output's low. Competition's crap. Takedown defense looks okay, but he got taken down by 4-2-0 Filio. They're clearly giving Godzi a layup here. I still probably wouldn't play him if he's like minus 300. I wouldn't parlay him just because like I'm not sold on him yet, but this should be an easy fight for him. Maybe if it's a playable ITD, I think he should roll.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up perfectly here. They're giving Godzi a layup here. Medina, I don't think he does anything better than Godzi at all. The much smaller fighter, not as athletic, not as strong. And time again, we see these guys coming out of KHK and they wrestle and they wrestle effectively, whether it's in the Contender series or whether it's in the UFC itself. And I just think this is a very large mismatch. And unfortunately, Medina likely goes out here in round 1. I think Godzi takes him down and wins via ground and pound fairly easy. I don't like Godzi's defense all that much, but I don't think it's going to stay on the feet all that much at all. He's probably just going to insta shoot at this point. But yeah, Medina, I mean, the way you were breaking it down is is perfect. Like when you can only say like he has good body shots, like what do you expect? He's thick.
He's very thick.
Yeah, he is. It's not the most inspiring tape from Medina, and I just don't think. Yeah, that these South American prospects tend to prove us wrong again and again, but Bolivia is not the the country that we're seeing these guys come out of. I don't remember the last time I've seen a guy come out of Bolivia. So yeah, give me Godzi here, first round TKO. But let's go ahead and move on to this next matchup, the co-main event. We have Eduardo Matias Torres going up against Victor Hugo Silva. Eduardo Cyborg is 16-1, fighting out of Chile, 28 years old. He'll be the younger fighter by 2 years. Both fighters are 5'8", and Victor Hugo Silva, as I mentioned, will be 2 years older at 30 years old here, fighting out of Brazil. So in this matchup, I mean, I'm not really fond of either guy. I don't really think either guy is UFC material in a sense. I think that's the way I'm going to put it. The tape was pretty average for both, but I do like Silva's power for sure. He's also been the fighter that's been fighting at welterweight a little bit more often. If he can make this cut, he'll be a lot stronger than Torres here. I just don't know. I have a weird feeling about this one. It was very hard to come to a conclusion because, yeah, I do think that Silva has the better like BJJ game, but on the feet he's just very low volume and really just goes for winging shots, and he tries to like Hail Mary knockout. Whereas Torres is someone whose striking is a little bit, I'm not gonna say good, but it's serviceable. When you compare it to Silva's, it's miles ahead, and that's how bad this matchup is. I think it's a really even fight, but give me Torres here as long as he's able to stay on the feet. Like, I know this is not the best breakdown, but I cannot touch this fight confidently. But yeah, for the sake of the show, give me Torres by knockout.
I'm so glad you said you don't think they're UFC caliber, because I started feeling like I'm crazy, because everything I'm hearing is people saying how sick this fight is, how good they both are, how UFC caliber they are, and like I don't see it. This could be a great fight, but I just don't think either guy's that great. And I know Torres has this shiny record. Silva's, I believe it's a 12-fight win streak right now. So both look good on paper, but honestly, I think both aren't very good. With Silva, he's very weird. You touched on it a little bit. This fight's at bantamweight, right? The last time he fought in bantamweight was in 2017. Since then, he's fought at featherweight and welterweight. Why those two and not lightweight, I don't know. It's pretty weird combination. And then even weirder to come down to bantamweight. So I don't know what's going on there. I imagine they just offered him the fight at bantamweight. And like, if you get offered a Contender Series fight, you don't say no. So I guess that's why. But I think that's going to be a problem, right? And especially for a guy who's inactive, because that's my second issue with him is he's not active. He's not. He had one fight in 2023, about 4 months ago. It went 23 seconds. Before that, he had two fights in 2022. One ended in 42 seconds, 10 minutes of cage time total. Before that, 2019 for two fights. And before that, 2017 and earlier. Guy's been fighting for a minute, but he's just not inactive. He's been fighting since 2011, actually. But he's just not active. And because he's also coming down to bantamweight, something he hasn't done since 2017, I've got a lot of questions. And on top of that, like you mentioned, his striking just isn't quite there. Seems a bit wild. He looks really uncomfortable. It's kind of weird saying it because he has 8 knockout wins, but like the level of comp there isn't great. He's not knocking out high-level dudes. He's got 2 knockout losses. Last one was in 2015. Guy was actually 18-3-0, which is now is 18-3-0. So decent opponent. Just beat Rojo, actually, that other guy. But he doesn't move his head. He's just so hittable. Doesn't move his head. He does have good wrestling. I'll give him that. And the jiu-jitsu is definitely there. Don't like the way he rolls for heel hooks like in his last fight, even though he got the heel hook. I don't love that he does that. Just not a great thing to do 46 seconds into your fight. And yeah, I don't like him, man. And then on the Torres side, I thought I was going to get a guy like, we already got a Torres, right? Like a few seasons ago, who's like a beast. I want to say Manuel.
No, Manuel Torres, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of got the same vibe from this guy pre-tape, and then I taped him, and I was like, nah. He's definitely the better striker. There's no doubt in my mind. Clean 1-2s, very fast, slick counter game, goes to the body, which I love. Definitely the better striker. But the issue is his grappling sucks. Both guys are strong where the other one's weak. His grappling's horrible. Horrible. Miranda dragged him down, but he couldn't hold him down. That's pretty good. Like, the get-ups are decent. Against the worst comp he's facing, it looks good. But, like, he got taken down by 5-4-0 Kunahai, which you don't know who Kunahai is, and you don't know for a reason because he's 5-4-0. And he got taken down by him. It's such a crap fight. Maybe the under because I think both can finish the other and where they're weak. But at the same time, part of the problem playing unders or fight doesn't goes in fights that you think are low level is, can you trust a low level guy to get you the finish? I think it'll come here on either side. I'll pick Torres. I think he knocks him out and survives any grappling. I can't trust Silva. Coming down from welterweight and featherweight to bantamweight doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's fair. That's exactly how I view it.
And is he even taller?
I mean, they both. It says they're both 5'8". I think Torres might be a little bit taller.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
But we have the main event, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a huge squash match here. This is ridiculous. Like, whoever.
It's a squash match?
I think this is a squash match.
Nah, I don't think so.
Well, let's look at it. Rodolfo Bellato going up against Murtaza Talla. Bellato was on the Contender series. He lost to Vitor Petrino. That was his second loss to Vitor Petrino by knockout. So that's his only 2 losses on his record. He's 6'3". He's taller by 3 inches. 75 inches of reach. We don't have reach metrics on Murtaza. Fighting out of Brazil, and Murtaza's fighting out of Bahrain. And yeah, Mike, it is your turn to break this one down.
All right, so yeah, I do think Talha wins. And I do think he's clearly the A side. Like, we're not stupid here. We can put 2 and 2 together, look at it, and we can tell who the A side is. They definitely want Talha to win this one. There's a reason they gave him Bellato. But honestly, like, I think without a doubt, Bellato is the best fighter he's fought yet. Talha. I don't think Talha's fought anyone that good, and I think this is by far the best one he's fought. And I do think it's a relatively stiff test because, you know, I like Talha. He's another guy who's on a long winning streak, 12-0 as an amateur, 6-0 as a pro. So that's 18 fights in a row that he's won, has never lost. Made his pro debut in 2020, so relatively new to the pro fights. But I don't know. My issue with him is I don't love his striking. Like, I don't really love the striking too much. He's got a good jab, really good in the clinch, really nasty knees. He's got good counters. He's clean with the counters, but he's over swinging a lot, and he's really leaving himself open for counters. Now, is Bellato the kind of guy who's going to take advantage of that? Probably not. Bellato's striking isn't that good. It's pretty wild. Maybe he can catch him with a wild hook and knock him down. I think that's a possibility. Bellato is going to be much bigger here, 3 inches, sitting at 6'3". And he does have power. We even saw him drop Petrino in that second fight, right, on the Contender series. Both got a knockdown there. And, you know, having 2 losses to Petrino could be worse. Petrino's an absolute stud. And if him and Talho fought, I don't know who I'd pick. I'd possibly be on Petrino. So MMA math doesn't work, but it's just something to think about. And, you know, Petrino was able to get him down, which obviously lends good for Talho, who's a really, really good grappler. But Petrino, like I mentioned, is gigantic. Like, the dude is huge, ripped, juiced to the gills more than likely. On that secret juice, Paulo Costa sends it to him every month. So, I don't know. But Talho, again, he's also very strong, right? He's also very powerful. So, I do think he should roll here. I do. Because on the feet, like I said, while Talho's not the best and he can leave himself open for counters, Bellato's not much better. He's probably worse on the feet, to be honest. Very hittable, too. And the wrestling is good. And, like, he took down Dos Santos really easy, which made it look like he has good takedown defense. But then if you remember, Dos Santos fought in the Contender series against our guy, the Pleasure Man, Anton Turkali. And what happened? Turkali took him down 11 times. So that probably doesn't mean much. I don't think Bellato is going to get Talha down. It's interesting, actually, to watch Talha's fights because you would think with a guy like him, they wouldn't try to grapple him. But most of them try to grapple him. Because I guess he's really got this power. If you watch the fights with the audio on, all you hear is Talha is so powerful. The power is insane. It's crazy power. Every single fight. And I mean, it looks like it. It does seem that way. I'll stop going around in circles. I think Talha wins. I don't think he's going to be playable, unfortunately. And I do think it's his toughest test. So I wouldn't go wild on him, but he should roll.
Yeah, I think Bellato's gonna get shredded. I'm just gonna put it like that. Like I do think Bellato belongs. Like I think he really could get some wins in the UFC. But this matchmaking, I don't know what they're doing with them, man. Like they really aren't cutting him any favors at all with Petrino and then now Talha. It's like they don't want him to get into the UFC. But man, this guy Talha's wrestling is legit, and he is strong as shit. Like you look at these fights, and he's ragdolling these people, and he's winning control time. Like I get it, Bellato is more of like a jujitsu guy with some serviceable striking and some power. Talha is I don't know. He's a really bright prospect in my opinion, and I think he can make it far in the UFC. He also is a two division fighter. He fights at middleweight and at light heavy, so he could possibly cross divisions and do all of that stuff. Just overall, like I'm not gonna really add too much to it. I think he shreds Bellato to pieces. He probably wins via TKO round one, like just ground and pound or some sort of submission. Striking level is pretty similar to Bellato's, but the power dynamic has to go to Talha here. I know he's a smaller guy in terms of height, but in terms of just landing, you see the effect that those strikes make. So give me Talha by round one TKO in this matchup, and yeah, I think unfortunately he's going to be lined around minus 400. So
I was about to ask you if it's minus 300, would you play it?
I don't know, man.
I'd consider it low key. Minus 300. That's giving Bellato a 25% chance.
Yeah, I mean,
which is maybe too generous.
I would parlay him, but
pretty easy, right, with this card to parlay.
Yeah, I mean, we have a ton of options. I mean, if I wanted to give out a parlay that I like on this card, I mean, let's just go like this. We'll go Talha. We'll go the under in the Torres fight. We'll go with Gadzi Asulov. Under when the Ruffy and Magomedov fight. And let's just go with the under in this first one, too. I think it's a violent card.
You know, I would lean over on the Ruffy fight, but I guess it depends what they give us, 2.5 or 1.
Well, it's like I lean a little bit more to the side where Raymond finishes him early, but we'll just have to wait and see. But that's the way I'm going with it with the under. That's why.
Yeah.
But it just depends if it's 1.5 or 2.5, or you could just go on Raymond, or you could just leave this one out because if we get a good line on Ruffy, then I'm taking Ruffy.
I think we might, but the problem is every capper I've spoken to, anyone who does tape and makes their own bets, everybody is watching out for Ruffy. I haven't seen one person saying, "Oh, no chance." Everyone's waiting to see the line, so I'm concerned that they're going to be on top of it. But look, if they open it too tight, if they give me Mago at like minus 175, then you're forcing my hand, and I'm going to have to play the favorite because that's off.
Yeah. It should be a fun week of Dana White Contender Series. I could say that with confidence.
On paper, it's the best card we've got. On paper. Yeah. I don't know if it could beat last week, though.
Yeah, talent-wise. I mean, let's go ahead and look towards week 10 with the infamous Cortavius Romanius.
But we have Lou interviewing him tonight?
Yeah, it should be released tomorrow. Zenadim is actually really good.
I'm pulling up. I want to see too.
Yeah, the other guys I haven't taped, so I don't know. But
I remember Panfarov, I know who he is. He's definitely the side UFC wants, I can tell you that. Isakov is good too.
This is the picture. Like this is the exact sign of an alpha right here.
That'll be my next post next week. This week I did the Roka, not Roka, the Davey post. This next week I'll do the Panfarov post.
Let's see these pictures, man. Are they all the same? What is this?
Oh, how about that? Yeah, that's the one I know. All right, he's gonna win. That's a really cool hat.
And then we got our guy Cortavius Romeus. Sorry for the. And his nickname is "Are You Not Entertained?" Come on,
which is fantastic.
We should.
He's good too.
He is. I like his wrestling a lot. And I think that'll win him the matchup.
Yep.
We'll see. But guys, that is the final fight. We have 1 week left of Dana White Contender Series to break down, and you best bet we're going to be coming out with a bang. So make sure you're tuned in next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Mike, go ahead and plug yourself. Tell people what you have going on.
Yes, sir. So I actually just recorded a PFL breakdown right before this video. It wasn't live, so I have to upload it still, but that'll be up in like probably a half hour from now. In terms of other content, honestly, I don't think I'm going to have the time. We have so many regionals this week to keep up with, and I would like to find as many spots as I could. But I will be posting my bets, as always, at Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter. PFL, I'm hyped for, and that's the one that I was able to do a breakdown for. But at Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter, Couch Warrior Podcast on YouTube. Post all my bets on my Twitter as soon as I make them, so you can check that out. And yeah, that's all I have for this week. Not too eventful.
Yeah, and if you guys want some extra gambling to do, I don't condone it, but I just finished recording. We were actually live, so it's already up. The NFL bell for week 4. And there's a couple of decent spots that me, Lou, and our guest Gordo like. So if you wanted to rerun the show and get some action on Sunday, and even tomorrow, we have a game tomorrow, go ahead and rerun it and see what we think. But until next week, we will see y'all then. Good luck, and let's